willkommen, bienvenue, come on in. You are live with us here on Backchannel, the only place on your Echo device where you can watch, listen, and enjoy live shows and chat with hosts in real time. I'm Anthony Davis. I'm your host here Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. Pacific. That's 12 o'clock Eastern, 9, 10, 11, 10, 11, 12 Eastern, and 2 Eastern, and 9 and 11 Pacific. So good. This is all so good. Central it's 11 or something, I think. Yeah. You can get involved with the show by sending a message. You can ask questions, chime in on what we're talking about, anything else you want to send our way. If you can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo show or Fire TV, the magic word is say. So just wake up your device, then say, and then your message. If you're listening right now on an Echo speaker without a screen where you can't see me, well, then you can go to backchannel.tv and, kind of join the chat there. Just make it part of your morning. That's backchannel.tv. So welcome to you if you're just joining in, if you've just jumped in the chat. Lots of people already here. Stacey's in Texas, William's in Florida, Laura's in Washington, Miraman's in New Jersey. So welcome. And also, we have access to the subscribe button now as well. So if you can lean in, press the subscribe button, changes everything. We're going to look at lots of topics today before we go through the newspapers. 1 year on from the Derek Chauvin verdict. Companies owned by radio host Alex Jones, including his right-wing website InfoWars, have filed for bankruptcy. We'll look at that. That move as he fights. Sorry, what? Wrong script? No, surely not. Let's see if I've been sent the wrong script. Here we go. Let's have a look. Yes. The war in Ukraine. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin hopes Russian losses in Ukraine will deter its leadership from repeating its actions elsewhere. See, very similar script. Lara Trump mocked for saying the White House jobs should be based on merit in an attack on Kamala Harris. Also, we'll look at the interesting life of Tom Justice, who left the Olympic team and robbed 26 banks. And on this day in 1990, the Hubble Space Telescope was placed into orbit by the Space Shuttle Discovery. 1990 seems like a long time ago now. And if you think about it, it was 32 years ago. I left school in 1990. It's very interesting how Hubble, I mean, they're doing it again now with this new telescope. The new one is like even better than the old Hubble telescope. The next one, the new one, is just like on another level. But it has changed the way that we see Earth's place in the universe, kind of in terms of perspective. Yeah, I mean, I love I love a kind of skyscape. I love images from the Hubble Space Telescope. I have a screensavers. I'm obsessed with that kind of, like Milky Way action, anything that is otherworldly, and all those images have come from Hubble. But these new ones, goodness me, new images, goodness me. We're going to take a look at the morning papers. We're going to jump to Florida first. The Bradenton Herald is first up. Florida, again, has got lots of heat on it at the moment for all the wrong reasons. Isn't it terrible? Do you know, I read a study early this morning about Joe Manchin, who, of course, is the Congress or Senator, for West Virginia. And it basically said that his approval rating has gone through the roof. This is a guy that has basically blocked every piece of legislation. And I read a little bit further. It turns out his approval rating is with Republicans in his state. He's a Democrat. It's Republicans that think he's doing a wonderful job. They're probably more likely to vote for him, even though he's a Democrat, and they're Republicans. That's the craziness. Florida's congressional map, a GOP shift setback for blacks, it says on the front of the Bradenton Herald. I can hear the moans. That was the lament of Senator Darrell Rooson, 66-year-old black Democrat from St. Petersburg on Wednesday, as the Senate voted to pass the congressional redistricting map that is expected to reduce black representation in Congress. A lawyer and son of educators, he said, "I don't consider the governor a racist for demanding a map that protects fewer black voters for the first time in 30 years when the state has more congressional districts than ever. But," he added, "there is no explanation for a policy that will hurt people." Yes. It says by Thursday, the moans turned to chants as several black members of the House staged a one-hour sit-in on the chamber floor to disrupt the debate over the congressional map that Ron DeSantis had both demanded and drawn to warn that the state was going backwards in time. The protests started Republican lawmakers with power in numbers. They shouted over the protesters and called a vote on the map. And then they voted 68-38 along party lines. I mean, it's very sad because, it is racist. And the thing is, what DeSantis does is he tries to claim that by making it not about race, that therefore he's being not racist. But he really doesn't understand the importance of representation for people, And white Christian nationalists are not good representatives for the black community. It's as simple as that. Thank you for joining in. No Names joined us as well. Stacey's not feeling very well today. I'm also a little... What's the word? How would I describe myself today? I'm a little... No, I tell you what it is. I ate non-vegan snacks last night. And it has given me a little bit of a toxicity. I had butter, I had burrata, things that I just wouldn't normally eat. And the thing is, your body isn't used to it, so I'm kind of in a mild toxic shock. If you'd like to send me a message, you can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo Show or Fire TV. The magic word is say, so call the wake-up word followed by say and then your message. If you're listening on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. There you go. Stacey has a stomach virus, so we're all in good company. U.S. Coast Guard patrols skies for Cuban and Haitian migrants, and there's a photograph of the flight deck of a Coast Guard, an HC-144 Ocean Sentry on a reconnaissance flight on Friday over the Florida Straits in the Bahamas. Lovely-looking aeroplane. 2 female pilots. I used to love it when I haven't been on airplanes for so long, but when the captain came on and made an announcement and it was a female, you could hear genuine moans from people. The tragedy of that. One of my best friends and former flying instructor is now a captain for commercial airlines, and she deals with this all the time. It's insane. Yeah, they still deal with this, People that can't get their heads around the fact that a female can actually fly a plane better than a man can. Shirley Bassey once said, apparently, that a woman should never fly a plane because of her hormones, and she'd never get on a plane if a woman was flying. I mean, it's just so offensive, Maybe Shirley Bassey shouldn't be flying a plane. That's really where it's at, Especially with her gold finger. I would never get on a plane with Shirley Bassey flying. If the announcement came on, it was, "Hello, darlings." Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like these views are so outdated now, and yet, weirdly, half the population still has them. Yeah, multitasking is just to do with the way your brain's wired up. To say that women are better multitaskers than men isn't, factual either. It's just, everyone is different. We're all individuals, and we're all fundamentally the same as well, The white speck appears on the radar screen, bobbing in the surf far below the waves. In the deep blue waters of the Florida Straits, a U.S. Coast Guard aviation electronics technician manning the screen leans forward for a closer look. while cameras from the HC-144 turboprop airplane zero in. A few minutes go by and the crew is still trying to determine if what is obviously a vessel is a fishing boat or a migrant smuggling operation in process. Lieutenant Katrina Prout, the pilot, has already circled back once, and the crew decides if it's a false alarm, it's a fishing boat. The number of Haitians and Cubans risking their lives at sea to reach the United States surges. The U.S. Coast Guard is stepping up its patrols to respond to the influx. On Friday, a 5-hour patrol by air yielded 2 false alarms in the Florida Straits and 1 possible smuggling boat left abandoned on Anguilla Cay in the Bahamas. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? That this is how desperate people are. I watched a documentary last night called The Donut King. I think we might have mentioned it a few weeks ago, The Donut King. And it's about a Cambodian refugee who comes to America in like 1970 and basically opens more donut restaurants. He literally has thousands of donut restaurants. And it's kind of brilliant, you know? It's kind of brilliant. It's such a great story, you know? Such a great immigration story. I haven't got all the way to the end of the documentary. It's quite long. I'm kind of 2/3 of the way through. But, you know, this is an example, and Jimmy Carter at the time, you know, kept saying, we are a nation built of immigrants. America would not exist if it were not for immigrants. We are all immigrants. And yet, despite that, there is still this desire to kind of, you know, this kind of negativity towards migrants. Probably by migrants. You know, that's the tragedy of this. Florida group is on mission to help people fleeing Ukraine. It says Creed Burleson checked into the Radisson Blu in Kiev on February 22nd with big plans. He would set up a new website design business in Ukraine over the coming days, stopping by the bank and submitting paperwork to establish the new company with local authorities. Instead, he, an Army veteran from Marin in North Carolina, ended up in the hotel's garage-turned-bunker 2 days later as Russia's bombardment began. There was no way out because the trains were so packed. The sound of air raid sirens were constant as he searched for an escape at that point in the early days of the war. The extent of Russian capabilities and its penetration of the capital weren't clear. But Burleson did not believe that time was on his side. So he reached out to Project Dynamo, an organization founded months earlier by 3 Florida men to help extract Americans from war zones in the U.S. From war zones the U.S. government wouldn't enter. Project Dynamo put him through a secretive vetting process to confirm his identity. They told him to expect a text with a pickup location and to pack a single bag. He got the text around the 2nd of March. Or no, it might have been March. Well, anyway, it continues on the next page, so I can't even tell you the rest of the story. But fundamentally, this is a Florida group on a mission to help people fleeing Ukraine, says the headline, but it sounds like it's Americans fleeing Ukraine. You know, unless the story takes a dramatic turn. Satisfying Finch has joined us. Hello, hello. Welcome. Nice to know you're part of the show today. And a reminder that you're here with us on Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis, and if you're enjoying the show, there's 2 ways to support the show that would really help us out. If you're watching right now and you see that subscribe button on the bottom left, click it. Subscribing will let you know when we're going live, and we have special plans coming up in the next few weeks for those of you that are subscribed. Another way you can really help out, no matter where you're watching from, is by leaving a review. So just go to backchannel.tv to leave your review. Your positive reviews help keep this show going. That's backchannel.tv and click leave a review. There you go. Well done. Okay, next newspaper. News Press, Florida. Amendment would give the right to clean water. It says free speech, religion, assembly work. Many Floridians know those rights are guarantees by their federal and state constitutions. But the right to clean water, nowhere to be found. So a group of clean water advocates are working to change that. That's exciting, isn't it? Oh, wouldn't it be lovely to get clean water? I mean, such a simple thing. What else do we have here? Is the magic still alive is the headline. This is the fight between Ron DeSantis and Disney. It says, even if you've been deep inside Space Mountain for the past few weeks, you might have heard the intense rumblings emanating from the feud between Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and the Walt Disney Company, which the governor has blasted as a woke corporation. Then again, you probably didn't pay it much attention, just like the thousands of others queued ear to ear for Magic Kingdom fireworks on a Friday night, or waiting to meet a Disney princess, trying to get a required park reservation at the most magical place on Earth. Yes, the iconic company's 4 Orlando theme parks are teeming with guests. Additionally, vacationers aboard Disney Cruise Line's 2 largest ships, the Dream and the Fantasy, for sailings from Port Canaveral, a total of 3 times a week. Disney is very much loved by the people of this country. Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, the 7 Dwarves, Cinderella, all part of Disney love. Said Abraham Pism, the founding dean of Rosen College of Hospitality Management at the University of Central Florida in Orlando. Disney has permeated our culture. It's an entertainment giant. If I were in the shoes of Disney, I would not be worried. The rumble in a nutshell, the Florida legislature voted to repeal the Reedy Creek Improvement District, the governing structure for Disney's Florida properties, which has about $1 billion worth of municipal bond debt. It's a move viewed as a punishment for Disney's views on LGBTQ plus people. This is going to end up in the courts, I'm sure, and Ron DeSantis is going to lose because, fundamentally, he's prejudiced, It says, in punishing Disney for crossing him, Ron DeSantis is proving to be a leader who will go where no Florida governor has gone before, taking on the state's biggest private employer to wield his vast power in a way that thrills supporters for his resoluteness, but leaves critics worried about a creeping authoritarian streak. Hey Carla, do you know something? They reckon that DeSantis' election, that actually got DeSantis elected in the first place, was colluded by the Russians, and that it could have been DeSantis himself that gave the Russians access to the voting software. Yeah. It's a whole thing I've been working on. Very interesting. So DeSantis' actual, his existence as governor might actually be completely flawed. He's a very shrewd operator, but, fundamentally he just loves... he's a far-right extremist, in a big suit. DeSantis has amassed more political clout within the GOP than any of his predecessors in the Florida governor's mansion, and is using it in ways that even some conservatives find disconcerting, bulldozing his way through perceived enemies with a free-swinging approach reminiscent of former President Trump. After a series of battles over COVID-19 public health measures and culture war issues made him extremely popular with the Republican base nationwide, DeSantis appears increasingly emboldened. That was evident this week when the governor quickly pushed through his own congressional redistricting map, along with a separate bill punishing Disney. These were major pieces of legislation that were approved in just 48 hours by a GOP-controlled legislature eager to please DeSantis. They say this is a governor unchained, exercising raw political power with few restraints and ruling partly by fear as he punishes those who speak out against him. I mean, it's fascism. Why don't we start calling it what it is? It's just fascism. And just because it's happening with Disney doesn't mean it's not still fascism. Mayor predicts brutal primary. It says Mayor Lenny Curry's announcement, this is on the front of the Florida Times-Union, his announcement that he won't run for Congress eliminated the most well-known Republican with the biggest fundraising network from the potential field of candidates for a brand new district approved this week by the state legislature. The freshly stamped district will bring a different dynamic to congressional elections in Northeast Florida, as Republican voters in Clay County will outnumber GOP voters in the Duval County portion of the district when the August primary election arrives. Nassau County voters, who overwhelmingly line up with the Republican Party, will also pack a punch at the ballot box and could combine with Clay County to tilt the district towards bedroom communities and rural areas. Yeah, I actually despair a little bit with all of this, you know. Remap battle may not be over. The Florida House this week resembled a scene reminiscent of the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s, with black lawmakers staging a sit-in and singing "We Shall Overcome." The demonstration was triggered by new congressional district lines pushed by DeSantis that wipe away districts designed to help elect black lawmakers. Ignoring the protests, the Republican majority legislature quickly passed the new redistricting map. We have to go amid chaos. Daughter helps mum flee Ukraine is also on the front of the newspaper. This is the Florida Times-Union this morning. Next, let's go to Michigan. Let's get out of Florida. I'm desperate to get out of Florida today. Tensions with Russia are seeping into space. And a wonderful photograph of the Suez MS-19 cruise ship backing away from the International Space Station last month. This was the Russian spaceship that landed in Kazakhstan, you know, getting a ride back to Earth. The American astronaut Mark Vande, he was hopping a ride back to Earth with cosmonauts Anton Shakharov and Petur Duprov, you know? Wonderful. It says the 57 video posted by the Russian government last month caught the attention of scientists and diplomats, but not in a way that inspired optimism about the future of global cooperation in outer space. In it, Russian cosmonauts floated about the International Space Station, hugging and waving goodbye to an American astronaut. Then they entered their portion of the complex and sealed airlock doors behind them. With the video blasting a Russian song Farewell, computer-generated special effects took over in the depiction of the cosmonaut segment detaching from the station and drifting away to the applause of Russian ground controllers. The satirical video depicting what would be the certain demise of the station presaged more serious threats to an endeavor that has come to symbolize post-Cold War cooperation in space. I mean, I tell you, I've been thinking about this. I mean, it's lucky that, like, Musk and Bezos and Branson, they've all started doing like their own space trips now, because we do rely on the Russians to get to and from the ISS. And, you know, Musk at the moment is the only other person that's really doing this, you know? So, and I'm not a fan of Musk, I'll be honest. I find him to be quite unnerving. It's crazy that a man that's presided over the largest electrification of cars in history is also beloved by the right wing, you know? They love him. He's playing a long game, but he's also about to buy Twitter for $45 billion. And my concern is that he's very into free speech, which includes hate speech. And I really don't want to see hate speech back on the platform. You know, I just don't. And even though Donald Trump, in a statement last week when asked, would you go back to Twitter, said probably not, the answer is probably yes, of course he will. You know? Musk is just a troublemaker. He really, you know, he wants everybody just to be their best and to rise to the top, but he doesn't seem to account for the fact there's a lot of misinformed people here. You know, misinformation really has been the reason for this entire insanity. You know, none of it is true. Space has long been the barometer of the US-Russia relationship. Cold War competition pushed Moscow and Washington toward new human feats in the 1960s, including the US moon landing in 1969. Anxiety over President Reagan's Star Wars defensive weapons program drove arms negotiations in the 1980s that presaged the end of the Soviet Union. The 1998 Space Station Agreement, which also includes the European Union, Japan, and Canada, signaled a new era of shared advancement in the post-Cold War period. For more than 2 decades, the jointly operated station has been spinning around Earth. Secretary of State receives JFK Courage Award. This is Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson has been awarded a John F. Kennedy Profile in Courage Award. He was one of 5 political figures who put their careers on the line to defend democracy, a member of the committee who determines award recipients said. Benson said she is grateful and deeply moved for the recognition of her work. She said, I share this with every Michigander who is working to protect and defend our democracy in the face of a barrage of lies, hateful rhetoric and threats, and I hope this emboldens all of us to continue doing that work, even as the challenges intensify in the months and years ahead. I mean, let me make a prediction. I actually think things are going to get really bad. I think DeSantis, I think that whole movement is going to be replicated throughout all Republican states. I think that they're also going to put a ban on climate change being taught in schools in the same way that they have put a ban on teaching about race and history of civil rights and LGBTQ+. I think all of this is going to be expanded into every Republican state where you've got a governor who is as excitable as Ron DeSantis to make an impact. I do believe that people are good. I believe that fundamentally people are good, but I also believe that misinformation is intrinsically bad, and that is all people have got to go on. So even good people are going to be bad people based on those grounds. And in fact, I'm just looking for this tweet that I put out yesterday. It was another new governor. Where is it? That's right. Here we go. It was David Perdue, right? He's the conservative running to unite Georgia. Candidate for governor with a proven record of results, he calls himself. His opening message at the first GOP governors debate last night was, this is what he said. This is David Perdue, right? He's running for governor. First off, let me be very clear. The election in 2020 was rigged and stolen. That's what he said. That is a new governor who's wanting to, get Georgia. And his opening gambit in a debate was that the 2020 election was rigged and stolen. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who are so brainwashed and so desperate to appease their supreme leader, Trump, because they need his endorsement, are basically saying these complete... And they probably know it's not true because, of course, all the evidence suggests that it's not. And all of the court cases suggest that it's not. There's no truth to it being rigged and stolen. But if a new governor is going to get up and wants to bring change to a town or to a state, and that's his opening gambit, what help is there? What hope is there for us? James has joined us. Rocco, Jeffrey, Selenial Rooster, welcome to Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. We are live here every weekday, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. Pacific, that's 12 o'clock Eastern. Send me a message. If you can see me now, you're watching on an Echo Show or Fire TV. The magic word is say, so just wake her up. Say the word say and then your message, whatever that may be. If you're listening right now on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, go to backchannel.tv and join the chat there in the browser. That's backchannel.tv. And welcome to you if you literally just dropped in. Very thrilled to see you. So we're just looking through the morning papers. Detroit entrepreneur takes on charging. This is kind of an interesting story. From Los Angeles to Las Vegas to New York. The biggest names in automobiles have been getting a preview into what Detroit's latest startup has in store for the North American International Auto Show. PlugZen, an electric vehicle charging manufacturer, has been taking its product on the road before returning home for the auto show in September. Most recently, the multi-charging platform got a spot at the New York International Auto Show. Founded by Detroit native Kwabena Q. Johnson, PlugZen is one of the few black-owned businesses in the electric vehicle industry. But Johnson isn't new to the auto industry. Before making the leap to electric, he worked at Ford for 10 years in the company's alternative fuel division. He moved into electric vehicles in 2006 before launching PlugZen in 2020. He said, I saw the vision early on. PlugZen is entering a hot market with competitors such as Tesla, BP, and Shell. Open Charge Map, it's a crowdsourced electric vehicle data site, estimates there's almost 50,000 charge stations across more than 31,000 locations in the US. PlugZen is looking to be among them in the push to spread the electric vehicle movement far and wide and avoid charging deserts. Johnson's model is set up like a gas station, less like a gas station and more like a parking garage. Multi-family housing and workplaces are the ideal location for the multi-vehicle hybrid stations that can offer both wired and wireless charging. How do you do wireless charging on a car? I didn't think they'd worked that out yet. PlugZen platforms can charge up to 10 vehicles simultaneously. Most charging stations have single or double units, but PlugZen separates itself from the pack with its scalability to have additional units plugged into each other. Most people, they'll be topping off at home or at work, so they'll never run out of juice. Anywhere where a vehicle will likely sit for 2 hours or more is an ideal place for our EV chargers. So they're going to put them into test in the Detroit Smart Parking Lab in May. I do love electric chargers. I kind of get really excited about it. You know, if I'm going to the store, the supermarket, I went to Target the other day, there was a whole bunch there. Where was I? Oh, IKEA. I went to IKEA and there was a whole bank of chargers. Nobody was using them. I just love it, you know? Yes, I do currently plug my car directly into my house. I have a wire that I run from the basement up to the front of the house, and I charge it outside my own home. And I'm very fortunate that electricity is included in my rent. So I don't actually pay to drive in California. You know, it's all part of the deal. And I was very clear with the landlord when I rented the house. I said, you know, I'm going to charge my car here. And he said, that's fine. Because, you see, I don't use the air conditioning. Whereas, you know, other people, you do use the air conditioning and don't charge. So, I mean, it probably costs more to run the air conditioning than it does to charge my car. And I only charge it once a week. Heavy Sheep has joined us. Nice to see you, Heavy Sheep. Click the subscribe button. James and Rocco, Jeffrey, Celestial Rooster, Ambitious Crab, welcome to Backchannel, all of you. That was the Muscon Chronicle that we were just reading from. Where should we go next? Let's have a look. The Detroit Free Press for Michigan. In a new direction, step into futuristic Ford EV plant. See, more EV stories. It says heading west down Interstate 94, exit 209 is clearly marked Rotunda Drive, but there's nothing very special about it. Everything looks familiar, like the industrial Midwest, and the roads are cracked and crumbling and lined with orange and white construction barrels. Exiting and driving past old factory buildings and smokestacks, the landscape looks like a Hollywood set for an era long gone. Keep going, beyond Eagle Pass and the Dearborn paint plant and the F-Series body shop. Yes, this is the name of the auto plant isn't sexy like a new Tesla Gigafactory, but Ford historians say the Rouge Electric Vehicle Center, this new site in Dearborn, once built warships intended to hunt down German submarines in the fight against fascism. On Tuesday, it will launch the all-electric F-150 Lightning from the same place. Yes, this is the F-150 truck, which is the most popular truck in the US, is becoming electrified, and this is where they're going to build it. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like all of these old, car plants need to be put back into use to build electric vehicles, and that they should be proud of that. A little bit like trying to get these nuclear power stations back online, It's like, let's use these old spaces to build new things. But this F-150, I watched a review of it the other day, and it does look fantastic, Jimmy's joined us. Welcome, Jimmy, in Wisconsin. Nice to see you. Please click subscribe if you like the show. A power keg seen in Grand Rapids data, it says, as the Grand Rapids Police Department faces national scrutiny following the execution earlier this month of a young man by a police officer. New data suggests the city's officers are increasingly accusing people of obstructing them. Last year, Grand Rapids police reported they were obstructed in close to 900 incidents, and a nearly 600% increase since 2015, when the city reported 133 incidents with an obstruction offense, according to data provided by the Michigan State Police. What has contributed to the spike, which topped even 2020, was the city's police reported 473 obstructing police offenses. It's unclear. A spokesman for the police department declined to comment. Statewide, during the same 7-year time period, obstructing police crimes increased by 31%. Well, let me tell you why it is. I think I know why. I think it's Donald Trump. His attitude created a new attitude for the police, a new totalitarian attitude for the police. And I think that they felt empowered by the president, who was encouraging them to treat criminals badly, to not hold their heads when they went into the car, so they hit their heads when they were being arrested, to not be violent towards them. You know, he may remember he encouraged police violence at a police academy when he went to make a speech there. You know, he said, don't worry about being rough with them. They deserve it. And I think that a lot of, right-wing, far-right police officers, of which a good majority are, they took that to give them license to become more aggressive. And I am certain that if these police claim they were being obstructed, it's because their attitude encouraged it, Because the police are supposed to be a service. They're supposed to serve and protect. They are not supposed to be an army, some kind of militia that just stops you from living your life. Lawmakers seek change of course for dyslexic kids. It also says there's about a girl who's 13, tried to read aloud. She added extra syllables to words and stumbled through pages. Riley's school evaluated her and came back to her parents with a recommendation. Evaluate her for ADHD, which she did have. Her reading problems persisted all through elementary schools, landing her with extra time with reading teachers and little progress. See page 7a. Yeah, I think it turns out it was dyslexia. I don't see how you can suggest ADHD might be the diagnosis for somebody struggling to read, I personally don't actually believe that ADHD should be used as a diagnosis. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm saying the moment you diagnose a child with ADHD, it changes the way that they are. I think it kind of, I think it's compromising. I just think it's compromising. Okay, what else do we have here? Let's have a look. But I think that you use different tools anyway. Like if all children are treated equally, but you recognize some people have strengths in some areas and not in others, because a child... Yes, I believe in dyslexia. I'm not saying I don't believe in ADHD. I'm saying I don't think we should diagnose the ADHD as quickly as we do. Because, here people are medicated. Children are medicated for ADHD in America, Yeah, the meds thing is crazy. I personally think it's crazy. I feel like they give them Adderall and stuff like that. It's like, really, young people on Adderall, is that really a good idea? So I don't know. I mean, look, my boy is like hyperactive, but I also recognize that he still has all of the attributes required to learn. It's just all a bit all over the place. And I'm thinking, do I seek a diagnosis for this kid? Or do I just continue to support him and give him the attention that he needs? Yeah, you can do both. I get that. Anyway, I'm thinking about it now as a parent, obviously, but I just hate that this kind of desire to to give people a diagnosis. There's a lot of scientists, scholars, and doctors who don't think ADHD should be diagnosed as often and quickly as it is. And I've read arguments on both sides. Let's look at the West Central Tribune now. We're going to stay in West Central. A photograph of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz on Sunday delivering his State of the State address to lawmakers and guests in the Minnesota House of Representatives. He said he urged Minnesota lawmakers to use the state's $9.25 billion budget surplus to help the state rebuild from the pandemic and set itself up for a successful future. During the nearly 1-hour address, the first-term governor said the state was moving toward recovery after COVID-19. But he said lawmakers need to step in during the last month of the legislative session to offer support to those who've been bearing the brunt of its impact. He pointed to a nurse who'd worked on a COVID unit, business owners hit hard by the pandemic, and the state's efforts to curb it, and other caregivers in the House gallery, as he made the case for those spending priorities. He also urged legislators to again bridge the partisan divide in St. Paul to get things done. We may not agree on everything, some of us won't agree on anything. We owe it to the people of Minnesota to try to find common ground. So there we go. That's the priorities being set for the $9.25 billion budget surplus. What does Minnesota's bonding year mean? This is about the Minnesota legislative session entering its final month. Lawmakers in the Senate and House of Representatives have started to work through major public works borrowing proposals. State agencies and local governments have requested billions of dollars in infrastructure investments, and any requests the legislature grants will be funded through a bonding bill. And also, finally, Council approves grant for cleanup. This is Block 25 near downtown Wilmar, approved by Wilmar City Council. Fabulous. It's very specific, isn't it? Amanda's joined us from Arizona. Samir is here. Jimmy is here. Heavy Sheep, James, Rocco, Jeffrey. Welcome to you all. You are watching Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. We're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. Pacific. That's 12 o'clock Eastern. You can send me a message. If you can see me right now, then you're watching on an Echo Show or a Fire TV. The magic word is say. So just wake up your device, say, and then your message. And if you're listening right now on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, simply go to backchannel.tv and click Join the Chat. That's backchannel.tv. So, welcome to you, Amanda. Nice to see you. Okay, let's move on the old newspapers here. The Sun Herald for Mississippi is next. Misuse of welfare funds. Nothing new in Mississippi. Yes, is the current scandal involving former Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant encouraging the funneling of millions in welfare funds to family and friends the first time these kinds of allegations have surfaced? No. In fact, when Bryant worked for his state auditor, he demanded reimbursements from officials he claimed had abused funds from the same temporary assistance to needy families program. The demands came after allegations arose that millions of welfare dollars went to things such as the purchase of a gold Jaguar and a trip to Greece to study childcare. Donald Taylor, who served as executive director for the state's Department of Human Services, recalled other fraud allegations too, including taking a DHS credit card on his honeymoon to Hawaii. Well, some people just don't care, Some people just don't care. According to a forensic audit, the State Department of Human Services misused $77 million while Bryant served as governor, and his pick, John Davis, headed the agency. Text messages obtained by the Mississippi Today show how Bryant may have wielded influence over Davis's decisions. Davis and 5 others have pleaded not guilty to criminal charges. Bryant has not been charged with any wrongdoing and is credited by State Auditor Shad White as the whistleblower in the case. So there we go. More corruption. Ukraine leader prepares to meet with top U.S. officials. Yeah, this is something that I think might have already happened now. Ukrainian servicewoman, a photograph of her holding a basket with traditional cake and painted eggs while attending an Orthodox service during the Easter celebration on Sunday at the front lines in Ukraine. This is Zelensky pressed the West for more powerful weapons as he prepared to meet with top U.S. officials in the war-torn country's capital on Sunday while Russian forces concentrated their attacks on the east, including trying to dislodge the last Ukrainian troops in the battered port of Mariupol. Zelensky announced the planned visit by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Lloyd Austin, the defense secretary, at a news conference on Saturday night in a Kiev subway station. Zelensky said he was looking for the Americans to produce results both in arms and security guarantees. He said, "You can't come to us empty-handed today. We're expecting not just presents, some kind of cake. We're expecting specific things and specific weapons." Yeah, well, I think the cake he's referring to is because it's the Orthodox Easter celebrations, and that I think and there's a kind of Easter cake that's involved in that. I think that's why he referenced cake. It wasn't just a random thing. Do you remember, Carla, in England when they tried to convince a bunch of celebrities that cake was the new drug? It was done on, I think it was done on the Day Today with Chris Morris, and it was like a satirical expose done where they basically said to a bunch of politicians and celebrities, have you heard that cake is the new drug of choice for people, and kids are dying because they're eating too much cake, or they're ingesting, or they're snorting, or whatever. And these celebrities totally bought into this scam, and they all were filmed on camera on this fake news program saying, we really have to do what we can to fight against cake. Do you remember this? It was a brilliant expose that... Right. I don't think they were connected. Maybe look up the cake scandal. It was put Chris Morris cake scam. I think it was a brilliant thing because it just showed, it basically exposed how celebrities and politicians will get behind anything if they think it's going to make them look good, and that really was what the exposure was for. It was just to make celebrities look like they could be bought, And if it was the case that they thought there was something was worthy, they wouldn't even look into it. They would literally just get on with it. They were like, cake is bad. And it's, it was just an amusing, satirical example of how politicians will really say anything if they think it's going to help their approval ratings. Does it come up, Carla? Chris Morris cake. Oh, it was on Brass Eye. That's what it was. Yes. It was cake is a drug. In 1996, cake emerged, it said, emerged in Prague. A year later, it appeared as a legal drug in the UK. This is all made up. Cake is a made-up drug being composed of artificial chemicals. Its yellow color is achieved through the use of an industrial dye. They basically created this whole thing to raise awareness of the dangers of cake in 1997. The shared campaign was successful, with figures all warning about the nightmare of cake. And, of course, the whole thing was made up. We have this great satirical comedian, Chris Morris, who he doesn't do much these days, but he used to do an awful lot. And he's one of these people who's so clever, he just didn't feel the need to be on television. He just did a bit now and then. He just wasn't he didn't kind of crave the limelight. Let's watch a little clip, just so we can see what this is all about. The horrors of cake, yes. Let's have a look. No.
cryptic street signs of a nearby drug abuse. But what about this? Remnants of something far worse. A new legal drug from Czechoslovakia called cake. Oh, and luckily the story involves these people. Free the United Kingdom from drugs, and British opposition to metabolically bisturbile drugs. Ted Moore reports.
Cake first appeared in Prague last year. News reports showed victims insane with pain. Disturbing images like this and a knowledge of the drug routes in Europe led to the formation of Free the United Kingdom from Drugs, incorporating British opposition to metabolically bisturbile drugs. Their single aim to enlist the great and good.
I'm Bernard Ingham, and this is a piece of cake.
To warn Britain about cake.
Fucking hell.
Before it was too late.
Hi, this is Bruno Brooks. We all like to party, right? Absolutely. But only the fool would say, yeah, I'll enter the nightmare of cake. And this is it.
This colour that they thought would be a good selling point is put in by using an industrial dye, which in itself is a pollutant, and is causing in Czechoslovakia something called Czech neck. It causes enormous water retention so that the body swells up. The neck becomes about this wide and swells up to engulf the mouth and the nose, so that the person who's on that trip dies through not being able to breathe at all.
One young kiddie on cake cried all the water out of his body. Just imagine how his mother felt.
So there's an example of how Brass Eye exposed a fake drug. You know, very interesting. Let's go back to the Sun Herald this morning. Ethics Commission to decide if GOP caucus meetings are public. Close attention will be focused on the normally low-key Mississippi Ethics Commission when it considers and rules on whether members of the House Republican caucus, led by Speaker Philip Gunn, violate the state's opening meeting when they meet behind closed doors. The open meetings case might be the most high-profile issue to be considered by the Ethics Commission since 2013, including another case involving the Mississippi House and Gunn. So there we go. I mean, why shouldn't GOP caucus meetings be public? I mean, everything should be public, shouldn't it? Also, a girl, 16 years of age, in critical condition after a shooting at a party. She was shot at a large gathering of teenagers in Biloxi on Saturday night. So another shooting. Another day, another shooting. Next up, what was that? Was that the Sun Herald? Yes, it was. Okay. Let's see what we have now. We have got, the Omaha World Herald for Nebraska. Let's see what's happening in Omaha. They lead this morning with Sarpy lags behind Douglas, Lancaster in ballot requests. County does not keep list of residents who like to vote by mail. A driver of increased participation. Yes, and a photograph of voters filling out their ballots at a polling place in Papillon on Election Day 2020. Far fewer Sarpy County voters have requested mail ballots this year compared to Douglas and Lancaster counties. Election officials say that's because Sarpy County Election Commission does not maintain a list of people who've indicated they want to receive their ballots by mail. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. The sizable difference in early voting requests among the state's three largest counties is unfolding 2 years after the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic drove a statewide surge in early voting, which a state GOP official obtained by the World Herald cited as the reason for Republican candidate losing his Sarpy County legislative seat. Well, a vote is a vote is a vote, you know? Plan to ban menthol cigarettes prompts late lobbying push. Phasing out flavor could prevent 630,000 smoking deaths over 40 years. This is as federal officials finalize a long-awaited plan to ban menthol cigarettes. Dozens of interest groups have met with White House staffers to try to influence the process, which has the potential to save hundreds of thousands of lives while wiping out billions in tobacco sales. So, there we go. That's interesting. I haven't really thought about menthol cigarettes for years. You know, it's like vaping has kind of become the thing, you know, with various concoctions in there, whether it be weed or THC or whatever. And the idea of like a menthol cigarette just seems like ancient history, doesn't it? Oh, that's very interesting. So Carla's saying that years ago, menthol cigarettes were being smoked by invariably impoverished black communities, and it was crystallizing in the throat and making people very ill. And so they've known for this long. I see. So like, yeah, I mean, yeah, now that it's affecting white people, she's saying that now is the time they're starting to look at it for the first time in decades. Beneficial Moose is with us. Denny's has joined in, squealing lobster. Hello, hello. Will and Shaggy Cow and Denny's and Amanda and Samir and Jimmy. Nice to see you all on the back channel this morning. We're looking through the morning papers. We'll check out the latest US news update in just a few seconds. Stratcom chief says US still needs baby nukes. Says the chief of Offutt's US Strategic Command is happy with the record $813.4 billion Defense Department budget the Biden administration pitched to Congress a few weeks ago, except for the matter of a few baby nukes. Admiral Charles Richard raised eyebrows earlier this month when he wrote a letter to top members of the House Armed Services Committee calling out the Biden team for dropping a proposed low-yield sea-launched nuclear cruise missile first proposed during the Trump administration. While I'm satisfied of USS Stratcom priorities are adequately addressed, the current situation in Ukraine and China's nuclear trajectory convinces me a deterrence and assurance gap exists, he said. Military leaders don't often publicly contradict their commander-in-chief, especially on an issue with political overtones. But his boss, General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, backed Richard up a day later in testimony before the same committee. So what he's basically saying is that the budget doesn't cover these small nuclear cruise missiles. And he thinks that considering, the threat now from Russia and China and also North Korea now, of course, because they tested a new nuclear missile recently, that it would be a good idea for the Americans to have them. I'll be honest, I am concerned that the missile defense system might not be up to scratch. That's my concern. Because, I've been reading about missile defense a bit more recently because, trying to learn a bit about it, obviously, whilst we see the threat level raise. So you want to know that you are going to be saved if somebody does launch a nuclear strike. And, invariably, if Putin was to launch a nuclear strike on America, there are enough countries in between that will use their missile defense systems to kill these rockets. I don't know what that looks like, though. What does it look like if you send up a rocket to try and blow up a nuclear missile? I mean, does that mean a nuclear explosion overhead? What does that even look like? Be interesting to know, wouldn't it? Okay, let's take a little moment to do the US news update. It's the daily podcast that I produce for the Volley Network. You can download it wherever you get your podcasts. We'll have a quick listen to it now. If you like the sound of it, you can subscribe wherever you get yours. It's Monday, April 25. From the Volley Network, this is your daily US news update. I'm Anthony Davis. Wind-driven wildfires destroyed hundreds of structures in northern New Mexico and forced thousands to flee mountain villages as blazes burned unusually early in the year in the parched US Southwest. Two wildfires merged northwest of Las Vegas, New Mexico, and raged through 15 miles of forest driven by winds of over 75 miles per hour, destroying more than 200 buildings. To the northeast, a fire about 35 miles west of Taos doubled in size to become the largest burning in the United States, forcing the evacuation of a scout ranch and threatening several villages. The wildfires are the most severe of nearly 24 in the U.S. Southwest, and raised concerns the region was in for a brutal fire year as decades-long drought combined with abundant dry vegetation as a result of man-made climate change. Several voting rights groups filed a lawsuit on Friday challenging Florida's new congressional map, saying it unfairly diluted the voting power of black residents to benefit Republicans. The new map is backed by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who signed it into law on Friday. It passed the state Senate on Wednesday and the House of Representatives on Thursday after some black lawmakers from the Democratic Party staged a sit-in protest during debate. With all but 2 other states finished with the once-a-decade redistricting process, the outcome in Florida could play a significant role in determining control of Congress in November's elections. Your daily US news update is part of the Volley Network. To hear my live daily morning show, ask your Amazon Echo device to open Backchannel. There you are, the US News Update. Get it wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Anthony Davis. This is Backchannel, and this is the only place where you can play on your Echo device, where you can watch and listen to live shows and chat with hosts in real time. We're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, between 9 o'clock Pacific and that's 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock Eastern. There you go. 9 o'clock. I mean, this is just going to fox me forever. You know, why do we have multiple time zones? It doesn't make sense. Just make it 9 o'clock everywhere. I'm sick of it. It's such a waste of time. Send me a message. You can ask questions, chime in on what we're talking about, or anything else you might want to send my way. If you can see me right now and you're watching on an Echo show or Fire TV, wake up your device, say the magic word, which is say, and then your message. And if you're just listening on an Echo speaker and you can't see me, well, you want to chat, go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. Ernestine has joined us. Good morning, good afternoon. Oh, you're in Colorado. I guess it's good afternoon. Welcome to the show, Ernestine. I love the name Ernestine. My best friend in London's middle name is Ernestine. Yeah, it's such a great name. Beneficial Moose, Denny's, Squealing Lobster, Will, Shaggy Cow, Denny's. Denny's came twice. Welcome to Backchannel. Ernestine, click the subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner if you'd like to. That's a very helpful thing. We're looking through the morning papers before we get deeper into some of our conversations. Let's go to Las Vegas next and see what's happening in Nevada with the Las Vegas Sun. They lead this morning with... Oh, by the way, I just saw a newsflash saying that Donald Trump has been held in contempt of court for refusing to show up in New York or supply papers, for this investigation. So, I mean, he's one of these people that just presumes that he is above the law, and hopefully the law will just catch up with him. Do you know what I mean? I mean, why should he have a privilege? Why should he? Las Vegas Sun, flying battery has potential to reshape aviation. This is Kitty Hawk, the invention of the jet engine. And on a frozen Vermont morning, circling above Lake Champlain, the Alia. In the mind of Christopher Caputo, a pilot, each moment signals a paradigm shift in aviation. You're looking into history, he said recently, speaking from the cockpit of a plane trailing the Alia at close distance. Had an exotic, almost whimsical shape like an Alexander Calder sculpture, and it banked and climbed in near silence. It is essentially a flying battery, and it represents a long-held aviation goal. An aircraft with no need for jet fuel, and therefore no carbon emissions, a plane that could take off and land without a runway, and quietly hop from recharging station to recharging station like a large drone. Well, the Alia was made by Beta Technologies, where Caputo is a flight instructor, a 5-year-old startup that's unusual in many respects. The company is the brainchild of Martine Rothblatt, founder of SiriusXM and pharmaceutical company United Therapeutics, and Carl Clark, a Harvard-trained engineer and former professional hockey player. It has a unique mission focused on cargo rather than passengers, and despite raising a formidable treasure chest in capital, it is based in Burlington, Virginia, population of 45,000, roughly 2,500 miles from Silicon Valley. A battery-powered aircraft with no internal combustion has been the goal of engineers ever since the Wright brothers and Google co-founder Larry Page has been funding electric plane startups for over a decade. Electric motors will have the virtue of being smaller, allowing more of them to be fitted on a plane and making it easier to design systems with vertical lift. However, batteries are heavy and planes need to be light to fly. Just looking at this thing, I mean, it's very attractive. Lovely looking plane, you know. It needs no runway to take off and land. So it's like a large drone, basically. But it's a lovely... I wish I could show it to you. Maybe Carla can show it to you. You can see what that looks like. Story on the front also, the Las Vegas Sun for transgender youths. Visibility is up, but struggle for acceptance continues. This is a story about Cristina Hernandez, was 11 when she started her transition, wanting to use puberty blockers to halt her male puberty from commencing. She recalled how difficult it was for her and her mother to find options locally for the hormone suppressants. It says at 13, she began taking estrogen, the hormone that would allow her to develop traditionally feminine features, and over the years she struggled to keep her testosterone levels at bay, as doctors did not fully understand how to assist her transition. So, I mean, you know, it's so sad that gender-affirming healthcare is so hard to find, especially in Las Vegas or anywhere for that matter. It's becoming harder and harder, and in Republican states, again, it'll be the case that, you know, that if you're trans and you're a Republican, then you're probably going to have to change parties rather than change gender. You know? Go to a state that does provide these services, like California. Well, because I see that Carla's asking me why I'm against meds for ADHD but not meds for gender transition. Well, because gender transition is not a medical condition. You know, there's nothing wrong with these people. They're not ill. It's not a defect. They're born in the wrong body. So you in order to live normally, you have to fix that. They're not ill. Unfortunately, it comes under the boundary, the banner of healthcare. But fundamentally, people who are trans, they're not ill. Nothing wrong with them. Just got the wrong body. So whereas ADHD is seen as something that is, you know, it's becoming a medical condition if you choose to medicate it. You know, I think that hormones, it's not medicine. To take hormone therapy, that's not medicine. You know, it's natural. Hormones are natural. I mean, obviously the hormones that they're taking are you know, made in a lab, but fundamentally it's still kind of a natural thing, isn't it? You know? Oh yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit the other week, didn't we? About how, you know, pre-Christianity that trans people were considered to be superior. You know, they had access to both genders. I also think that people don't realize how many people are transgender. I mean, it's significant. I mean, I grew up with 2 transgender friends. I literally grew up with, you know, from the age of 17, I had transgender friends, 2 of them, and I'm still in touch with both of them. And so, And in fact, now I have a third because I had an uncle who became an auntie. So I have 3 transgender people in my immediate vicinity. And so, you know, I just don't think it's as rare as conservatives will have you think it is, you know? And what do they say in America? 13% of the population are LGBTQ. I mean, 13%. So the chances are you're going to know somebody. Are you eating raisin poppets? What are you eating there? They look delicious. Peanut M&Ms. Oh, yes. I love a peanut M&M. I love a peanut M&M. I like it when you get a slightly disfigured one that's a little bit too big. Do you know what I mean? That looks like it's got elephantitis. And you're like, give me that one. That's the one I want. Yeah. A peanut M&M and a cup of tea arguably is like perfection. It's just perfection. I have a... yeah. Well, here's the other thing. There's actually a 4th transgender person in my story because, you know, my transgender friends I didn't meet until I was like 16, 17. So I was already developed by then, and I already by then obviously understood you know, we called it a sex change back then. You know, that's what you referred to it as, a sex change. But of course it's not a sex change at all. It's a gender reassignment. But I lived in a house. You might want to look this up. This is interesting. Look up a composer called Angela Winter. It's a British composer who wrote the theme tune. Was it Angela Winter? No. His real name was Wally Stott. I think Angela's the correct surname, but I don't think Winter. Was it Angela Winter? Or was it... No, look up Wally Stott. S-T-O-T-T. And Wally Stott was a composer in England, very famous composer in the 60s, who then reassigned to Angela. And this was my first exposure to gender reassignment as a kid. Angela Morley. Sorry, I got the name wrong. Winter is actually the surname of another transgender friend of mine. And Angela Morley was a very, very famous composer in the 50s and 60s in the United Kingdom and wrote theme tunes to some of the biggest TV shows. And the reason I knew about her from such a young age is because we bought her house. So the house that I grew up in from the age of 9 and 10, or 8, 9 and 10, was Angela Morley's house. And we knew that Angela Morley had been Wally Stott. And this is what I love about the UK, is that in the 50s and 60s, obviously you would have thought that to be transgender was a difficult thing socially for people to accept, but people just accepted it. You know, I think that there's a lot more acceptance in the UK to the fact that, oh yeah, they just transitioned their gender. It's like there wasn't any of this Christian nationalism that was pressuring society to have a converse opinion about these people. These were just regular people. Some people stayed in their gender and other people changed their gender. You just accept it because everybody is different, and you accept that everybody is different. But what we didn't have in England was this Christian, evangelical Christian nationalism that suggested that if you weren't a cisgender heterosexual, that you weren't, good enough. And it's all, the whole thing is just garbage. But Wally Stott was a very interesting character because, Wally Stott was one of the most outwardly famous trans people in the 60s, and nobody questioned it. Here's another bit of trans trivia for you, Carla. You'll like this one. There was a Bond girl. There was a famous Bond girl that was also trans. If you look up the name Caroline Cossey, and Caroline Cossey was a very beautiful James Bond movie Bond girl, and she was trans, and she would pose with all the other females, for the movies, and she was a bloke. Originally. So you probably had all these men fawning over her, and the reality was, and this was in the this is like the late 70s, early 80s. Caroline Cossey, Cossi, I think. And she was, famously a trans Bond girl. And this was part of British culture. So I really think that we, here in America, this pressure that society is starting to feel to create these segregated groups and suggest that some people, basically white heteros are superior to anybody else, whether it be, ethnic minority groups or in this case LGBTQ plus groups. It's a very modern thing. And it's all, this whole argument with Disney, with DeSantis, goes back to this. Did you find a photograph of Caroline Cossey? She's very beautiful. See if I can see one. Yeah, she's 67 now, that's right. She went under the name of Tula. Cossey, Cossey. She was born in 1954. She basically appeared in the 1981 James Bond film For Your Eyes Only. And following her appearance in the film, she was outed as transgender by British tabloid News of the World. She became the first trans woman to pose for Playboy. And she since then fought for her right to legally marry and to be legally recognized as a woman. What do you think about? I mean, I don't know where this trivia comes from in my head, but I'm telling you, it's like there's a whole history here that we forget, Let's say hi to some people who joined us here on the back channel. Riyadh has joined us. Tremendous Goose, Amusing Guinea Pig is here for the first time. So jump on the subscribe button if you get a chance. That would be great. Thank you to you guys for joining us. And if you are enjoying the show, there's two ways you can support the show that would help us out. If you're watching right now and you see that subscribe button, just click on it. Subscribing will let you know that we are going live. And we've also got some special plans coming up in the next few weeks for those of you that are subscribed. Another way you can help out is, no matter where you're watching or listening, is by leaving a review. So go to backchannel.tv, click leave a review, as your positive reviews keep this show going. That's backchannel.tv and click leave a review. Ernestine's still with us in Colorado. Noah is in North Carolina. Riyadh's in California. Satisfying Camels with us. Shaggy Cow has joined. Dennis has joined. So thank you very much for spending your morning here with Backchannel. We're looking through some of the morning papers, and we're referencing the Las Vegas Sun, photographs of Laura Hernandez, who started the Nevada Alliance for Student Diversity to coalesce with other parents of transgender children. And her daughter, Christina Hernandez, was 13 when she began taking estrogen. So the story headline is, for transgender youths, visibility is up, but struggle for acceptance continues. And of course, you take your chances which state you're growing up in, because if you're growing up in a state that does not accept LGBTQ plus people, such as Florida or Texas or increasingly Arizona and Oklahoma, where you can't get an abortion, or you don't have access to women's health care, then you really are going to have to consider moving. because I don't think that those states are going to be changing anytime soon. A reminder that Backchannel's got a growing list of shows, including Haley and Alison's Good Morning. You can start your morning from 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern, with 2 hours of silly fun and games with Haley and Alison. And producer Will, they've got trivia as well as answers to your burning questions and the news you might have missed. They're followed by Live Every Day with Liv Harrison from 5 o'clock. Join Liv every Monday, Wednesday and Friday morning to celebrate the little things in life in an extraordinary way. Candid conversations, lots of laughs, and plenty of coffee will fuel you and encourage you to live every day. And then on air just before me is Get On Up with Jam and Renee. You can wake up on the West Coast with community and conscious living. Jam and Renee have it all covered, from what people think to who's wearing what. You'll leave entertained and enlightened every day and learn how to pay it all forward. Let's look at the LA Times next. I'm here in Los Angeles right now. U.S. boosting military aid after Kiev visit. It says in the highest level U.S. mission to Ukraine since the start of the war, the Biden administration on Sunday announced additional military aid and the beginning of the return of its diplomats to the war-torn country. That's interesting, returning the diplomats. Excuse me. Yes, so this is going to offer a major boost to the besieged government of Volodymyr Zelensky. The U.S. Secretaries of State and Defense, Blinken and Lloyd Austin, have traveled to Kiev amid extraordinary security and much secrecy. They then announced more than $300 million in new military aid, promised to nominate an ambassador to Ukraine, and said the U.S. Embassy in Kiev would reopen as soon as is feasible, as a senior State Department official put it. An additional $400 million will go to other North Atlantic Treaty Organization countries and their allies, providing equipment and assistance to Ukraine. And a photograph of worshippers celebrating Orthodox Easter at the Troitska Church in Dnipro, Ukraine. They brought baskets filled with cakes, fruits and other goodies, which they said this year will go to the soldiers on the front line. Beverly Hills increases surveillance. Travel along Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills and digital eyes follow you. The same goes for Olympic Boulevard and Rodeo Drive. It says for years, Los Angeles enclave, synonymous with exclusivity and privilege, have been building a network of surveillance cameras that today covers much of its bustling shopping district and many residential areas. The city has about 2,000 closed-circuit cameras, nearly one for every 17 residents, along with others at many intersections that snap photos of drivers going through red lights, as well as drones and dozens of devices that can read license plates and automatically check them against law enforcement databases to find unregistered plates or stolen vehicles. And it says, and city leaders aren't done. At a meeting in August 2020, the City Council unanimously approved the purchase of a few hundred more surveillance cameras. They laid out a 5-year proposal to spend $14 million for an additional 900 cameras and 50 more license plate scanners. The ultimate goal, ubiquitous coverage, they said. Well, I tell you what this reminds me of. This reminds me of living in London, because London has more cameras in it than any city in the world. And I did not enjoy being filmed all the time in London, I really felt like it was impossible to kind of not be scrutinized. Now, I wasn't doing anything wrong, so it didn't really matter. But I mean, one thing I have enjoyed about the US, and certainly California, is that there is literally no security cameras anywhere. Yes, they have them in shops and shopping malls. But in terms of the streets, there's one red light camera in Beverly Hills on Sunset Boulevard. There's one in a national park that I go to, a red light camera. Otherwise, there's no speeding cameras, nothing. And, clearly Beverly Hills, they think people are going to feel safer. I personally think that cameras are very useful on the bodies of police officers. I think for solving crime, if they are called to a crime scene to be wearing a body camera, I've actually said this for like 20 years, that all crime should be covered by body cameras of police officers. Unless, of course, you're about to execute somebody in the back of the head and then you just turn it off before you do so, as is the case with that young man. I think his name was Patrick Aolia the other day in Grand Rapids. Also, woman dumped at hospitals bring cops back to rape cases. Alleged pattern comes to light after deaths of 2 people from drug cocktails. This is men dropping the lifeless bodies of 2 women outside hospitals. I mean, you know, to be drugged and raped and then dropped at a hospital, what do they think they're doing this person a service? It's just insane. Los Angeles detectives soon figured out that the men, one a small-time actor and the other a hanger-on to the Hollywood fringes, had been lying when they claimed to have found the women passed out on a curb. One was arrested on suspicion of manslaughter, while the other and a third friend were arrested on suspicion of being accessories to the crime. Oh, man. Travelers should take precautions. The CDC's top COVID doctor explains how to reduce risk in a world that has become mask optional. That's interesting. And a bit of conflict over olive oil labels. Who can use the California name? The fight has wide implications. Yes, California with its verdant hills full of fruit trees, calming ponds and tastings of an olive oil so precious that it's typically drizzled rather than poured. So yeah, there's very few that you're actually allowed to say that it's California olive oil. There we are. Interesting. Let's just remind you that you're listening to Backchannel, watching Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis, and I'm your host here on the show, the only place you can come to where your Echo device will enable you to watch and listen to live shows and chat with hosts in real time. I'm here every weekday from Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific, it's 12 o'clock Eastern. You can send me a message, ask questions, chime in on what we're talking about, or anything else you want to send my way. Crystal's just showed up from Oklahoma, first time on the show. Welcome to you, Crystal. Don't forget to press the subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. If you can see me, you're watching on an Echo Show or a Fire TV. The magic word is say, so wake up your device, say the word say, and then your message. And if you're listening on an Echo speaker but you can't see me and you'd like to chat, go to backchannel.tv and click join the chat. That's backchannel.tv. Damaged Duck has joined us as well. Welcome. And amusing guinea pig, tremendous goose, Riyadh, exciting kangaroo, satisfying camel. You can message me and join in on any of the conversations that we're having right here on Backchannel. Okay, let's jump into the next newspaper, which is the New York Times. After the LA Times, we're going coast to coast right here now. U.S. officials journey to Kiev to visit Zelensky. Dramatic show of solidarity as Russian onslaught continues in the east. Here's one. In France, Macron defeats Le Pen for presidency. This is very interesting because there was a worry that Marine Le Pen, who's the far right extremist who was looking like she was going to do quite well, actually didn't do quite. He got 58% of the vote, which puts Emmanuel Macron into a second term as president of France, triumphing yesterday after a campaign where his promise of stability prevailed over the temptation of an extremist lurch. Speaking to a crowd massed on the Champ de Mars in front of a twinkling Eiffel Tower, Mr. Macron said it was a victory for a more independent France and a stronger Europe. He added, "Our country is so riddled with so many doubts, so many divisions, we will have to be strong, but nobody will be left by the side of the road." So that's good news for democracy, isn't it? You know? Yes, I love the story of how he met his wife. It's so good. They're still together. She was his teacher when he was a child, and he fell in love with her, and they're still together. I mean, it just goes to show that love is love, right? You know, you can't compromise love. Love is love. Love is love. More nations straddle sides this Cold War. This story out of Bangkok as the bonds of traditional alliances fray across the globe. The Royal Thai Army, the United States' oldest treaty partner in Asia, has cast a wide net. Well, this year, with the world reeling from Russia's invasion in Ukraine, Thai soldiers hosted American troops for Cobra Gold, the annual military exercises. They're one of the largest shows of force in the Asia-Pacific. A few months before, they participated in Shower Destiny peacekeeping drills run by the People's Liberation Army of China. And in 2020, the Thais hedged their bet further, signing an agreement for the cadets to receive training at a defense academy in Moscow. Interesting, isn't it? How everything is connected. I was reading about the Israeli army training the Ukrainian army before the war started. That's why the Ukrainians are so good. They've got the Israelis teaching them how to fight, and it's also the same amongst Americans. The Americans have also been training the Ukrainian army in previous years as well. Transit crime threatens COVID rebound in cities. This story out of Chicago, saying that riding the L downtown, smoking, harassment, even a stranger's uninvited use of a shoulder to vault himself into a spot in a crowded Chicago train. I mean, just as a number of major cities are trying to lure people back to formerly bustling downtowns, leaders are confronting transit crime rates that have risen over pre-pandemic levels in New York City, the San Francisco Bay Area, and other cities. Interesting, isn't it? Crystal says thank you. Crystal, you're welcome. Great to see you here. And hit subscribe, It's always a good thing to do, to share with us, little subscription. So Lloyd Austin, just going back to Ukraine for a moment, Lloyd Austin hopes Russian losses in Ukraine will deter its leadership from repeating its actions elsewhere. He added that Ukraine can still win the war if given the right support, and he praised the efforts of the military. The retired four-star general said the US will allocate an extra $713 million of military aid to Ukraine and 15 other Central and Eastern European nations. Mr. Austin was speaking after meeting President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev. He was accompanied by Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State. The visit marked the highest-level trip to Ukraine by US officials since the invasion began over 2 months ago. I do find it fascinating how they smuggle these people into Kiev. How do they fly these people in without drawing any radio chatter or attention, from the likes of the Russians? It's very interesting. They do it in military transport planes, and it's very dangerous, obviously, bringing these two high-level people in. It's very dangerous. Should we talk about Lara Trump just for a moment? She's been mocked for saying White House jobs should be based on merit. In an attack on Kamala Harris, she became the target of mockery online after she asserted that White House jobs should be based on merit despite claims of nepotism in her father-in-law Donald Trump's administration. She's the wife of Eric Trump. She slammed Kamala Harris over the weekend for being what she deemed an embarrassment as the country's first female vice president, and went on to call her appointment to the second highest office in the country not being based on merit. She said, this as a woman I find incredibly frustrating to have this as our first female vice president of the United States. Did she actually say to have this, referring to Kamala Harris as this? She said, she's an epic failure. The former president's daughter-in-law began while speaking as a contributor on Sunday on the Fox News program, The Big Sunday Show. This is considering that Kamala Harris has this incredible history, and it seems that Lara Trump has done nothing. They say she's been made the border czar. She's accomplished nothing, she said. She's barely made it down to our southern border. The problem's about to ramp up and become worse, but she's an embarrassment every time she goes out on the national stage, she said. Ms. Trump, who was speaking alongside a panel of Fox News contributors, was referring to a recent book excerpt that hosts were discussing on the Sunday morning news program that reveals that First Lady Jill Biden expressed frustration ahead of Ms. Harris being selected to be her husband's running mate. The book is called This Will Not Pass, Trump, Biden and the Battle for America's Future. It was written by the New York Times reporters Jonathan Martin and Alexander Burns. And it includes a damning excerpt in which the First Lady reportedly said, "There are millions of people in the United States. Why do we have to choose the one who attacked Joe?" Yes, because Kamala Harris previously was very critical of Joe Biden, you know. So the issue got picked up by Fox News, you know. I mean, look, Kamala Harris has not been very public, I would agree, and I don't think she's a very good speaker, personally. But, you know, she has been doing a lot of work. She has been kept very busy, and she is running the country alongside Joe Biden. They're working together. They're just not talking about it, which is a mistake, I believe, you know. It's just ironic to me that they would make references to Kamala Harris being inexperienced when she has so much experience as a litigator, as a legislator. She's amazing, you know. Way's just joined in on the Echo Show. Hello, Way. Welcome to Backchannel. Nice to see you. Press the subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen if you'd like to subscribe to this show. A reminder that Backchannel has a growing list of shows, including Kate Cocker's Everyday Positivity on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern, for an hour of positive news and good vibes. And following my show every Monday through Friday is Your Pal Hal with Hal Rudnick, taking you on a tour of comedy, news and pop culture from 11 o'clock. That's 2 o'clock Eastern. Don't forget to check out The Drive with Mario Smith, weekdays from 1 o'clock Pacific. That's 4 o'clock Eastern. Everyone's drive home needs a second look, and Mario will make sure that you are home safe. So there we go. Kind of interesting, isn't it? You know, we are whizzing through this show and this stories. Deborah's just popped in from Texas and listening to us. If you want to message me, Deborah, just go to backchannel.tv. Should we talk about Tom Justice, who left the Olympic team? And he robbed 26 banks. True story. Yes, we usually find out in which era we will be successful in life by trial and error. Well, after failing in many areas, from the Olympic team to the priesthood, he's become someone who attempted robbery and has managed to be respected even by detectives. This is a fascinating story. Not condoning this behavior, of course, but he was born in Illinois in 1971. He excelled at the 1,000-meter sprint at a young age. After failing at every job he tried, he decided to become a bank robber. Yeah. After graduating, he wrote the professions he wanted to be on board next to his bed: a helicopter pilot, a locksmith, a priest, an emergency technician. He wanted to try his luck at the priesthood. Worked for a while in the Catholic Church, but failed there and left. He wanted to work in the anti-drug organization. In an interview that he went to, the person conducting the interview said, "Shall I be honest?" After saying you don't have the type to fight drugs at all, he decided to go diving. However, the satisfaction he wanted did not come, and one night he added a new one to the board of his professions: bank robber. Yes. His surname means justice in English. He first came home with $5,580 from the American National Bank heist, which he began in his own unique way in 1998. While we don't know if it works today, we can't deny that it's a different bank robbing method. At the banks, wearing a baseball cap and riding his bike to the bank, bowing his head waiting his turn. He didn't touch anything in order not to leave fingerprints. When it was his turn, he handed the paper in his hand to the person sitting at the cashier. Employees who read the paper that read, "I have a gun in my pocket, just put the money in the bag." They were putting the money in the bag and giving it to Tom. When he got the money, he got on his bike outside and he rode away. He was never caught robbing 26 banks in this way between the years of 1998 and 2002. Meanwhile, the suspect the FBI was looking for became known as the man singing in the choir because of the way he appeared on security cameras. Adopting the understanding of keep your friend close and your enemies closer, Justice made friends with soldiers from the Navy and even became a roommate with a policeman during this time, but no one suspected him. Coming from a wealthy family, he didn't commit bank robberies for money. He was just trying to prove himself against life by finding the area where he was successful. And one day, while walking down the street, a police officer wanted to look in his bag, and Tom, unable to think of any other solution, left his custom-made orange bike on the street and began to run away. Based on the bike, the cops combined other evidence, and 4 years later he was caught and sentenced to 11 years in prison. Isn't that amazing? I mean, you know, bank robbery is obviously highly illegal, but the point is that this guy just did it in a very simple way, tried all these different jobs, and bank robbery was the only thing that he was good at. Crazy, isn't it? Who knew? Who knew this was even a thing? But, I mean, yeah, not doing it for the money just seems kind of ridiculous, but, you know, this is clearly something that was very important to him. A reminder, you can leave a review for the show. Just go to backchannel.tv, hit the leave a review button. Not only can you send your thoughts on the show, but you can also leave us suggestions for upcoming segments and the like, as we look at the life of the bicycle thief Tom Justice. Once a cyclist chasing Olympic gold, then began using his bike for a much different purpose, robbing banks. A nice article from Chicago magazine about him. The man in the baseball cap and sunglasses. He was all over the place doing this, you know, went everywhere and did it. I just find it... I find it's the brazen attitude of this, you know? He's like a little fox. So there we go. Hello, Travis, by the way. Thank you for popping in and joining us here. Just looking at some of your messages. So many texts and, you know, messages popping through. I'm just trying to line them all up here. Shannon's joined us from Louisiana. Hi, Shannon. Welcome. Deborah's here as well. Way has joined us. Crystal, Damaged Duck, Amusing Guinea Pig, Tremendous Goose. Riyadh's in California. Exciting Kangaroo has popped in as well. No, lots of no names. If you want to change your name to a name that I can mention, then be my guest. You just ask your Echo device to change your name, and that'll work just as well. You know. Do you think you would? Are you the kind of person that would, you know, break the law just because you were bored? I mean, this seems like, you know. I mean, I do know quite a few people that have made a nice living out of shoplifting. You know, that's. It's just something that people do, you know. Some people do it by accident. But would you ever, like, break the law just to kind of prove a point? Just doesn't make sense to me, you know. You can message me in the usual way. Wake up your device, say the word say, and then your message. Or you can go to backchannel.tv if you'd like to join us there. So one final story we were going to look at was on this day in 1990. We were talking at the very beginning of the show about space exploration, and it was actually on this day, the 25th of April, that the Hubble Space Telescope was placed into orbit by the space shuttle Discovery. It was between 1990 and 2003, NASA scientists launched a series of technologically advanced telescopes into space, dubbed the Great Observatories. These 4 astronomical telescopes were designed to observe areas of space with equipment that could monitor the range of frequencies on the electromagnetic spectrum. Well, the first of those telescopes, the Hubble Space Telescope, is perhaps the most famous of the bunch. The other 3 are the Compton Gamma Ray Observatory, the Chandra X-ray Observatory, and the Spitzer Space Telescope. Well, for one thing, it alone, among the group, can be actively maintained in space by astronauts. Orly's joined us. Hello, Orly. Welcome to Backchannel. Nice to see you. You can click subscribe, bottom left. Tiger Lily's listening in as well. Shannon and Deborah, also welcome to Backchannel. The subscribe feature, by the way, is brand new, and it's only applicable to visual device users. So if you've got an Echo Show or a similar, you can touch the subscribe button located on the screen, and suddenly you'll be connected to the show's activity. This will allow you to receive reminders on the show's broadcast, so you'll always be in the know. And being reminded means that an alarm will go off on your device at the start of every episode to remind you of what it is that's coming up. So always useful, you know, to get a little reminder, I like to think. Okay, let's go back to this story because it's very interesting. I mean, I actually bought a pair of binoculars the other day that are the largest binoculars you can get before you get a telescope, you know? I think they're like 15 by 25, I think is their, you know, rating. But and I've been looking at the moon because we've had a lovely full moon recently, and I've been looking at the moon, and with these binoculars, they weren't expensive. You can literally see the craters on the moon. It's life-changing to see the moon in such detail. But anyway, these NASA scientists launched a series of advanced telescopes so that they could monitor the range of frequencies on the electromagnetic spectrum. It's also been the source of breakthrough discoveries about black holes. It's helped scientists learn more about the age and expansion of the universe, and provided unprecedented detail about the features of various objects in our own solar system. So as the Hubble Space Telescope turns 32 today, it's a fitting moment to reflect on some of its breakthrough finds. You may remember the Bubble Nebula. Do you remember that? Love a Bubble Nebula, me. Yes, the Hubble Space Telescope celebrated its 26th anniversary during 2016. It captured an image that seemed right out of a space odyssey. Known as the Bubble Nebula, it's an emission nebula located 8,000 light-years away. Interstellar clouds comprised of ionized gases. These in turn produce light in various wavelengths, all of which can show up in an image in a beautiful way. And it's very hard to describe it, but it basically looks like an orange Milky Way. You know, orange in the middle, white round the outside. It's completely beautiful. It's considered, they say, to be prototypical of barred spiral galaxies. So that was the Hubble collection. Astronomers have long struggled with the fact that despite advances in optical technology, you can really only see so much from the ground. The Hubble Space Telescope, freed from the tethers of gravity and the blurriness of the atmosphere, can produce images of a special clarity. This is one of a galaxy similar to our own. This one they called the kind of pillars, capturing multicolored glow of gas clouds, the wispy tendrils of dark cosmic dust, and the rust-colored elephant's trunks of the nebula's famous pillars. So this one was called Galaxy NGC 1300. It's not such a nice name. I would have called it, like the Fingers of Doom or something, Number 3 was the Pillars of Creation, one of the most famous Hubble Space Telescope images existing in the Eagle Nebula. And maybe that is that one. Maybe that is the Pillars of Creation. Maybe that's what that one was called. And the next one was an image of Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system, also believed because of the swirling gases one can see churning at the top of its atmosphere. The most famous structure of all is, of course, the Great Red Spot, 40 times as deep as the Mariana Trench, which is the deepest point on Earth. The photograph was captured by the telescope in August 2020, when Jupiter was 653 million kilometers from Earth. Carla, my friends have just come back from a place in Mexico where the asteroid hit the Earth that wiped out the dinosaurs. Did you know this was even possible? You can go to the crater site where the asteroid that hit Earth, that wiped out the dinosaurs, that place is now like a sacred, holy site. And you can go there, and they went on a spa weekend retreat. It's amazing to me. Right? Hang on, I'm just looking up. Mexico crater. Happened yesterday. Impact Crater, Mexico. That's what I'm looking up. Here we go. It's called the Chicxulub Crater. Yucatan. That's right. Or Yucatan. It's the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. This is what it is. It's spelled Chixulub, the crater. This is the crater where the dinosaurs were wiped out. Yeah. It's an impact crater buried underneath the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. Its center is offshore near the communities of Chicxulub Puerto and Chicxulub Pueblo, after which the crater is named. It was formed when a large asteroid about 10 kilometers in diameter struck the Earth. This is where you need to go on vacation, I'm telling you. They just had a wonderful time there. The impact crater. Who knew that this was even a thing? Are you writing it down so you can go visit? You can't believe it, can you? She cannot believe it. I couldn't believe it. My friend Dean was telling me about this yesterday. I was like, "What are you talking about? You can go to the impact site of the." He's like, "Yeah, it's in Mexico." Who knew? I had no idea. The crater is 110 miles in diameter. Isn't that crazy? It's one of the largest confirmed impact structures on Earth and the only one whose peak ring is intact and directly accessible for scientific research. Who knew? This is the kind of knowledge you'll get from watching this show here on Backchannel. I hope you've enjoyed it today. There's 2 ways to support the show. If you're watching right now and you can see that subscribe button, click it, because subscribe will let you know when I'm going live. And we've got some plans coming up in the next few weeks for those of you who are subscribed. Another way you can help me out is going to backchannel.tv to leave a review, because your positive reviews keep this show going. So that's backchannel.tv. I'm here on Backchannel every weekday from 9 a.m. till 9 till 11 Pacific. So Monday through Friday. So come back tomorrow. Just say to your Echo, open Backchannel. That's open Backchannel. Coming up next is your pal Hal. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.